Well, I've placed the Harman in its place, and it's effectively just a preamplifier switch. I'm taking the feed from the preamp output on the back down into my 7.1 surround amplifier. I've got these old other bits of equipment. I'm sort of getting into sort of retro equipment. This is a mini disc player, but it's the model JE780, so I can plug that into my PC and burn discs via that. This is a horizontal cassette loader, which I like that, so the cassettes just drop in there, just like retro type looking things. This one I bought's a little bit more modern. It's got a USB so we can load MP3s, compact disc player, and also another cassette player if I need it. And as I said, the Harman is just purely to act as a switch really for all of these down to the 7.1 amp. It's not the cheapest way to do something, but on the basis I only pay £40 for it, I'm not going to moan, and it is in beautiful condition. I've got a few old Sony disc mini players up there, and of course the reel-to-reel. So I did say this is my sort of retro collection. But as I stated, not all repairs are as in-depth as others. This was a simple one, simply just by probing the contacts that went up to the preamp board. I actually ended up pushing the socket back in, which had come disconnected. So I'll show you that repair anyway. It's not an over in-depth video, this one, but hopefully it'll just give you an insight into the opening and having a look inside one of these and what the possible faults could be. Latest eBay purchase, this Harman Kardon HK 3470. Absolutely pristine. It's beautiful condition. It's reported as the left channel not working, but I thought what we'd do, we'd have a quick look at fixing it without using any specialist equipment at first. So the plan is, on the rear of the unit, I'll just spin him round, we've got a main in and a pre-out. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the links out. There's two links, and on the pre-out I'm going to feed that into an auxiliary input on just a portable radio cassette. And on the input, I'm going to, across here, I'm going to put CD player, which is up there, on the input of that. And then we're just going to see if the preamp left and right are working at this point. That will actually then prove which side of the circuit's on, whether it's actually on the power amplifier stage or on the preamp stage. And that's the simplest way I can think, other than plugging a headset in it as well, to do a quick test without any test equipment. I don't really want to risk putting speakers across it, because if there's a DC bias on there of any description, it's going to damage the speaker, so I don't really want to do that. So I think the best thing to do is just remove these links, drop some audio cables on the pre-out, and the main in we can test as well. If this side is faulty, we can test then the power amplifier side just by feeding the signal into the main in. It's a nice feature that they've done, so it just simplifies things for us. So first thing to do then is get it all wired up, get these links pulled out, get the portable radio cassette on the pre-out, and get the CD player plugged into this CD input. Pulled these two links out, which are across the main and pre-out. This is the CD input, so it's straight into the CD there, and the pre-out we've just taken into the back of that portable stereo unit. And that's just going to be our amplifier effectively. So let's get a CD in it and see what it does. So this is the setup. We've set it to CD. We've put an old classical music type CD in there, and as you can hear, we've got output, but as suspected, we've only got output on the one channel. So just by unplugging there, plug it back in. As you can see, so we definitely have a problem there. So it's definitely on the preamp side, and we could then look at feeding a signal from this via the headphone socket into the main amplifier section and just see if that works. So we've established that without using any test equipment at all, but we're going to have to now trace through why we've lost the left channel. There is one last test we can do. We could try plugging some headphones in. Now the headphone must be actually powered from the amplifier side, because that's actually made no difference whatsoever. There's no output on the headphone socket, so the headphones must be driven from the power amplifier board. Let's just have a quick look at getting this thing apart. I don't normally like using screwdrivers like this. I prefer to do it by hand, but this is new and I thought I'd give it a try. Three screws on this side, 3 screws on the back and 3 screws on that side. Just have a quick look on the inside, see what we've got. The mains input transformer by the look of it. A couple of small transformers down there. It's a very nicely laid out board, to be honest, very simple to work on. From the circuit diagram, it looks like all these inputs switch through this switching preamplifier, whatever it is. It shouldn't be too hard to work on this. This is your FM tuner. This is the main amp PC, power amp PCB. And then down here we've got the headphone socket down there, and obviously a separate board for the LCD display on the front. And then we've got a small preamp tone control board, which I believe they call it, which is, bear with me, oh, that's down here where my finger is. I think that's where the fault's going to be. But we're going to have first thing we're going to do is have a look at all the inline fuses, all the capacitors, whether anything's leaked or swelled. Check the resistors for burning, and hopefully everything should be okay on this. And it might just be the preamp IC for the tone control has gone, or it could be this. But we're going to feed a signal in from the, say, CD or the aux or whatever, trace it through this device, trace it through the preamps, trace it up through the tone control board, then that feeds back to the main amplified PCB. And it does look like the headphone socket, which is this connection here, these 3 wires, is actually driven from the main amp PCB. That's why we was getting no output on the headphones. So the best thing you can do is really have a look at diving in now and tracing some signals through. Now unfortunately I am going to need to use an oscilloscope for this, a signal generator. Generally I try to do these repairs without that sort of equipment, but I think I need to trace this one through and just make sure where we're losing the signal. I might peel some of this older glue off. I don't like this old glue. It can become conductive. I've shown that on previous videos, and it can also corrode tracks. Okay, what we're going to do, simplest thing, is to feed a 1K tone into the CD input or the auxiliary input, and if we trace that through, it comes down into this switching device. And if you look on there, we look at pin 2 is the input, and pin 29 I believe, and the output is on pin 23, which is the right output, and it looks like pin 8 is the left output. And if we follow that through into this preamp, and then through another preamp, through this section, and then we come down and into this relay here, and the relay output from there, so that could be a possible cause. One of the contacts has gone funny in there, then feeds out onto this connector, which goes to the tone control board. It's the same for left and right channels. Now if we find the left and right tone channel board, there
which is over here. We've got our ins and our outs, and there is a preamp on this board, so it could either be the left or the right channel that's playing up on that, and then the output this is then fed into this power amplifier board onto here. So we can trace all the way, basically all the way to the input of the power amplifier board, and that's where we were measuring the output to the portable stereo. So with a scope we can now look for that 1K tone and trace it through and see where we're losing it.
Okay, we got the scope out, we've got the signal generator out, we ingested the signal into the rear, and it started to work. Now what I did notice, I was picking up the output at that point there, which proves the whole of the circuit from the in through the small preamp board, everything works. But what I did notice, if you look at that socket, it's not plugged in. I think that's what the problem was. I think the far end, the first four are your left and right and grounds, and where I've got the probe at the moment is the output. It's not pushed in all the way, but it's all working now. Well, if that's all it was, then I've picked up an extremely cheap amplifier for £40, fully working, in pristine condition. Oh, happy days. Well, that was quite a simple repair. We probed the signal through this chip, out through these preamps, and basically it makes its way down onto these connectors here. And you've got input and output through the tone board, and we monitored the signal on both the input and the output. And I've reconnected the links on the back of the unit now, plugged in some speakers, and it's working fine. So all the fault was, as I said earlier, was that connection had come loose. It doesn't look like anybody's been in here before, so not really a lot to show you on this one. I could roughly run over the circuit diagram with the path through that you need to trace, but it is very easy board to follow. Well, might be useful for you if you just want to have a look inside one of these, or you need to compare components. But yeah, this one's up and running, no problem at all, and I've now got left and right channels,